No one has ever shown that human emissions of carbon dioxide drive global warming.
We have a massive power, and it's the power to say no.
They put all these words on these flyers and it means nothing. It's garbage.
We're all going to die!
Doctors are gaslighting patients.
If you keep silent, then this is what's going to happen. And they'll make us silent.
I would rather paper cut my eyelids than have anything to do with their lives.
I love that saying.
We are one people, one flag, one Australia.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the XCandidates. My name is Stephen Tripp, joined by Adam Zahra. Now, Adam, we were down at the Reckless Renewables rally on Tuesday, and you got some really great footage with a number of people, including Craig Kelly and Bob Katter. I mean, what was it like meeting Bob Katter?
You know, it was, funnily enough, because these are really kind of popular politicians. Like, they're out and about, they're on TV, you get to, so you see them. So it's actually like meeting, famous people in essence, I guess, and having a conversation with them. So it's actually, I guess if you're interested in politics and you know who they are, you get a little bit starstruck. And it was good to see. It was good that they were open to speaking to free media. It was really good.
Yeah, that's right. So, thank you for everyone that got down to the rally. I think it was a really important thing. And I think the organisers were encouraged by everyone that was there, and they continue to keep going and keep raising these important issues, because as we heard from a lot of farmers, there's a lot of environmental destruction going on in their communities from these renewables projects. So that needs to get out there. People need to hear about this sort of stuff.
Can I just say, Stephen, we called it from the federal election years and like we're talking about 2-3 years ago now. Like, we were all saying the same thing. Once we caught up and got up to speed on, learn the ropes, we used to say it. There was always sayings. You got to clear cut a forest to save a forest. How does that even work? You know what I mean? Like, it's a common sense thing, and it's clearly a destructive technology that has its place maybe in rural outback, in small communities where it's very hard to run transmission lines and things like that. But even saying that, those new small modular nuclear power plants can solve those issues themselves and have strong, robust energy. That's what some of the smarter politicians are really calling for, and that would drive, obviously, energy prices down. And that's the first building block, as far as I'm concerned, of modern Western society is cheap energy.
So I just want to quickly bring up Buy Me a Coffee. If you do want to support us in a small way, it doesn't have to be a big way. You can head over to Buy Me a Coffee /XCandidates. The link will be in the show notes. So if you want to head there, a lot of people have in the past, so that's encouraging. And we've got some people on the membership now. So Adam and I recorded a very special video, just a short video for our members on the way back from Canberra. So if you do want to become a member, you can head over to Buy Me a Coffee and get some extra bonus footage, I suppose.
Bonus footage
Yeah.
of me driving and Stephen kind of nodding off after a big long day of work and speaking and everything at the renewals. Stephen, I'd like to say that you did a really good speech as well, and you spoke after some notable speakers or some keynote speakers, and you also spoke before Pauline Hanson as well. So that was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's always good speaking at those events. I didn't realize at the time that I was speaking in front of Parliament House, and I'd been to rallies and events and all sorts of things there in front of Parliament House before. So after I walked off the stage, I'm like, hang on a second, I just gave a speech in front of Parliament House. So that was pretty cool. But we probably should move on to our special guest tonight. He's a regular. If anyone listens to Chris Smith on TNT Radio, he has a regular segment there talking about all things technology. And he also has his own website, techadvice.life. He's also very active on other podcasts and radio channels and different outlets. And we thought we'd bring him on tonight to talk about, I guess, the rise of AI and if the positives, the negatives, things that we need to be concerned about, things that we need to be excited about. And we're going to ask him a lot of questions about technology in general as well. So we'll bring him on right now. Alex Zaharov-Reutt, welcome to the XCandidates.
Thank you very much, Stephen and Adam. Great to be here. I really appreciate you inviting me on the show.
No, thank you for being here. Now, you are a commentator on this technology field. How did you how did you fall into that? Because I can imagine there's a lot of people out there that would love to have your role and speak about technology all day, but you've been able to actually do it. So how did you fall into the space and I guess rise above everyone else?
Sure. Well, my father bought me a computer. We have to go back in time to 1979. I was 4.5 years old, and my father purchased me from Dick Smith Electronics something known as the XCD Sorcerer. So this was the computer that was competing against the Apple I that you had to build as a kit, and also the Commodore PET, which was the computer that had the sort of semi-triangular screen that was in the Buck Rogers and the 25th Century TV show. And this was before the VIC-20, and then in 1984 we had the Commodore 64. It was before the IBM PC came out in 1981. So it was very early days. Dad had to, get a big loan, and it was like $3,000, which in 1970s money was a lot of money. And all throughout my childhood, I was always the person to help people with their computer problems. And I mean, if I went to your house and I saw the VCR blinking 0000, which indicated that you must have had a blackout at your house at some time, I would know how to fix it. I mean, it wasn't that hard. There was a clock button. You had to push a few buttons to change the time. And of course, that was very handy if you wanted to do a bit of time shifting in 1980 style, where you had to have a cassette, which recorded for 3 hours. You could have a long play version that reduced the quality even further, but you could get double it to 6 hours, and you could tell it to record things, the 6 p.m. news or whatever it was you wanted to see. You could program that in advance, but only if the clock worked. And, as I went through life, I've joined computer user groups, the Microbee user group, the Canberra PC user group, different user groups. And, when I moved to Sydney in 1995 to join a telecommunications company and help them set up their very first internet provider, what happened was that I was driving home to Canberra from Sydney one day, and I happened to turn on 2GB. And I could hear it was the Brian Wilshire program. It was before midnight back in those days, like 7 or 8 p.m. And I was listening to him speaking to the tech guy on the Chip for Brains show. It's a funny name, Chip for Brains. Yeah, brilliant name. And he was giving some wrong information about Netscape Navigator. And so I rang up and, just said, well, that wasn't quite right. It's actually this. And I happened to speak to a friend that next Monday. It was on the weekend. I was driving home to Canberra. I came back on the Sunday night, and I saw a friend on Monday, and I said, look, there's some station called 2GB, there's some guy called Brian Wilshire, and there's this guy on this tech show, and honestly, it should be me. I mean, I already talk about technology and help people of all ages. I used to go to the trash and treasure markets. They would always go there, and he paid like $1,000 to get me a CD-ROM, not even a reader. I mean, not even a writer. It was a CD-ROM back then. And we bought these shareware CDs because at the time there was no internet. And I would actually sell shareware at the market. I mean, you still had to register it, and it wasn't piracy. That's the whole purpose of shareware. And you could get like a whole library of it, 650 megabytes, which back then, of course, was massive. And so I had this huge library, and people would come and we'd sell stuff. Dad was always buying and selling stuff. But, I would have the computer there, I'd plug into the power that they had there, and I'd diagnose people's problems and sell them the shareware, and sort of a young tech guy from my, early years. And so it was 6 months later that I got a frantic phone call from my friend saying, well, we need you to be on 2GB on Monday. Can you do it? The show's for 2 hours. And the other guy had something had gone wrong with the tax department. He didn't pay his taxes for his business. It was wholesale sales tax or something. And he didn't want to say that. He just had to close down for some reason. And we'd never disclose the reason why. But Brian needed another guy. And then so that was like 1998. Now, Google hadn't been invented yet. I was still connecting to the internet via a telephone line because there was a jack in the side of the computer. There was sort of Alta Vista and Hotbot. It was also the early days. But for the first year I did the show, I mean, we had a webcam that people could watch. I had ICQ chatting with people. But I mean, for the first few months anyway, I didn't realize there was a phone line in the studio, and I actually had that telephone extension cable, and I realized I could plug in. And but originally people were just ringing the station. I would obviously have news and things to talk about, but people would ring up, and the whole thing was, it was a helpline. People had computer problems, and I was an expert in configuring autoexec.bad and config.sys. And I mean, just like today, you ask me anything about anything to do with tech, and I'll help you as best I can. I mean, use Google if I need to. But I knew that if I could talk on the radio, I could then write. So I knew some people who were doing a computer magazine, and I became the editor of Free Access magazine. I became the editor of NetGuide magazine. I was on Channel 10's Internet Bright Ideas. I was the tech guy on Room for Improvement. I mean, I've been on ABC, SBS, Channel 9, Channel 7, Channel 10, CNN, Sky News. I mean, I hosted a reality show. I was part. Room for Improvement was sort of a reality show. So because everyone tells me I've got the gift of the gab. I mean, you can clearly tell I could talk underwater, right? I haven't even taken a breath yet. You guys are waiting for me to pause so you can ask me the next question.
That's all good. Keep going.
But the short version is that I just knew that, I mean, with my sort of, love for technology, my natural ability with technology, that if I could speak in front of a microphone, without any notes, without the internet helping me, and I could just answer people's questions. I could do this in print. I could do this on TV, and you have to want it. And of course, back then there were no influencers. It was obviously a bit harder, but I spoke to different people, and you put the message out to the universe, and I was very lucky that people listened to what I said and were happy to take me on. So, I became a tech commentator because I wanted to become one. I never did a university degree in journalism. When I finished year 12, it didn't appeal to me, and I sort of fell into it, but only because I was good at it, and this continues to this day.
Wow, that's really exciting. You can tell you really know. See, I can talk about blinds like the way you can talk about computers and technology, so that's pretty cool. But I was going to say, my very first memories of computers was the old Commodore 64, and my mate had, I think it was like Mission Impossible or something like that, and you would put the little cassette tape in, and then it would read. It was a little pixelated guy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But I remember when the internet first came out, you know what I mean? And like me and my mate, like I probably shouldn't really say it, but I will, but you look up, and back then it wasn't, we'd look up, what do you call it? Sports Illustrated covers.
Oh, sports. Yeah.
Right. And it would just go like this.
Yeah.
Like that. So how you were doing webcams back in 1998 or 1996, I have no idea how people were streaming.
I'll tell you, because you see, it was in the early 90s that we had bulletin boards. I actually ran a bulletin board system at home from 7 p.m. at night or 9 p.m. at night to 7 a.m. in the morning, because it was very expensive to get a second phone line. And I've discovered this BBS software. I put it onto my computer, and people would dial up, and you could actually ring a computer in Sydney, and you could get the mail, the FidoNet mail shuffled to you if you wanted to. It cost you obviously money. I was very jealous of the people in Sydney who had 2 lines, or in America you had people with 50 lines that could connect. And I got addicted to this. When I say addicted, I loved this game called Trade Wars. It was a text-based game. It was all done with a theater of the mind, because you read what was happening. It was sort of like a role-playing game, and you were this space trader, and you could win the lottery, and once or twice I won, and you could buy all these extra armaments for your ship. But it was all text-based, and it was like $20 a month to subscribe to this bulletin board in Canberra. And I begged my father. It was very generous with me. I mean, nothing was too much trouble for him, thankfully. I mean, he was a public servant, so didn't have a lot of money, but he always helped me and looked after me. And so I remember the 300 baud modem, the 1200 baud modem, the 96, the 28.8, 33.6, 56.6K modem, before we then went on to the original broadband, the 256 kilobits. And I mean, Telstra, when they first launched their cable, they gave you this mind-blowing data limit of 100 megabytes, which on cable you could suck up in 5 seconds flat. Then they quickly changed that. But I remember the text, that every time I got a new modem, everything was faster. The text came down quicker. And back in 1995, when I moved to Sydney for the first time and I joined this telecommunications company, it was in the Bayer building, which at the time was the Konica Minolta building, the big white building on the right-hand side. When you're traveling across the Harbour Bridge on the left, you have all the buildings of North Sydney. On the right, you just have this one sort of single building, now called the Bayer building. And at the bottom floor, we were on the 12th floor or somewhere up there, but on the bottom floor was Harris Technology. And not only did we go and buy like the first popular digital camera, the Kodak DC-50, which, was just incredible. You could have these digital photos. It looked like a pair of binoculars almost. But also one of the directors had gone to America and asked me what I wanted. He brought back for me, I had to pay for it, but he brought back for me a laptop, a compact, I think a 486 laptop of some sort. And then also a Connectix quick cam. It was the size of like a tennis ball, but it was white. It plugged into the parallel port of your computer. It was black and white. And at the time, we were using Adobe to do a new, because at the time, Windows 95 was new. I mean, the internet was new. The MSN network was still a thing. And it was my job to put together a weekly newsletter. Maybe it was daily. I can't remember now, but we put a regular newsletter together in Adobe PDF, like 2 or 3 or 4 pages, and created to look like a newsletter was back then, but people could print it out. But on the first page, in one of the corners, I would have like a 60-second to 90-second video, which I recorded with the quick cam, that I compressed all buggery down to as small as I possibly could, about a megabyte in size, so that I could insert it into this Adobe PDF video. So here we were in 95, long before all the different software we have nowadays for newsletters, sending this out with a live, not live, but with a video on a regular basis in color, or we had put in the digital photos, and it was all working beautifully. And so the Connectix QuickCam, Logitech bought them out, and of course Logitech now has a million different cameras, and it's all amazing. But yeah, back then we were doing it because it was possible, and all the radio networks had a camera of some sort, something equivalent, and they were pumping out a live stream, I think with audio, so that people could watch, because it was this new thing. Wow, you can watch what people are doing. I mean, they had the surf cams and all sorts of things, and of course now we all take it for granted. I'm streaming live from an iPhone, but using the StreamYard software by Zoom or anything else, we take it for granted. But back then it was all new and exciting, and wow, it's great to be part of that era.
It's been a blast from the past listening to you so far. You're bringing up things like ICQ and Netscape that we've already forgotten about.
Yeah, all gone. So, I mean, maybe ICQ still there, but who uses it? Nobody.
Yeah, well, like you just forget about it, but it just goes to show how quickly technology has moved. How do you keep up with it all? You must really have a love for it all, because don't you get burnt out from all the advancements coming through all the time? You have to keep up with them all, or is it just always exciting for you?
Well, look, I mean, it is always exciting for me. I always say it's never Groundhog Day in the world of tech. There's always something new and different and exciting. And when I realized I could be a technology journalist, and suddenly, and I'm on radio, and on TV, all the PR companies are contacting you, inviting you to events, inviting you to launches, sending you samples of various products, and you've got to review them for the publications you're doing it for. So this whole world opened up, and of course, always a new product, and that this has only accelerated in that time since. And of course, we now have, things like Google News and Apple News. And there's a constant stream of new stuff. I mean, I just surf the web and, constantly reading, constantly looking out for new, interesting, local and international products and services for my various shows on radio and on TV. I have to, each week, I've got to find interesting content. And of course, my shows are on different days of the week. So some of it will be reused, but, the next day comes and there's some new announcement, and that's sort of more important than one of the ones from the day before. So something gets bumped. I mean, on February the 9th, a couple of days ago as we speak, everyone's been waiting for Google Ultra, the most advanced version of Google's Bard, as it was, chatbot. And they retired the name Bard. They've now called it Google Gemini, and they've launched it, and it's supposed to be better and faster than ChatGPT 4 Turbo. But of course, in the next, in Q2, which basically is April, May, and June, that's when ChatGPT is supposed to launch GPT-5, which is supposed to blow ChatGPT 4 Turbo, which only came out in November 2023, out of the water. So both Google and ChatGPT are going to try and claim supremacy, no doubt, when Google Ultra comes out. They're calling it Ultra 1.0. So there's obviously going to be a 1.5 and a 2.0. And Elon Musk has said that this month sometime we're going to have Grok 1.5. Clearly there'll be a Grok 2.0, and we've got the Perplexity and the Anthropic and Claude and all. And then there's a million AI flowers of bloom. There's actually a great website called, and it's this whole, what I'm about to say is a sentence.com without the apostrophe, but the website is there's an AI for that.com. Just like there's an app for that, there's now an AI for that. I mean, whether it's removing backgrounds, erasing people's images, getting rid of all the noise. I mean, John Lennon's last song that was on a cassette that Yoko Ono gave to Paul McCartney like 10 or 20 years ago, they tried to extract his voice back then, and it was just too noisy, too many guitars, too many things. But just last year, in the age of generative AI, they were able to use some sort of AI program to cleanly extract his voice out of that cassette, and then they were able to obviously overlay Ringo Starr playing the drums, Paul McCartney singing. I don't know if they had any of George Harrison there, but it's a great song, and it's all thanks to AI that's possible. And even Javier Milei gave this fantastic rousing speech at the WEF forum, telling them what a bunch of socialist claptrap idiots they are about all this nonsense, And I mean, the WEF drives me nuts. I mean, I'm even suspicious of Elon Musk putting in Linda Yaccarino. I call her Linda Yakety Sacks, because she's a WEF plant. And I called Nikki Taylor, who I think is Nikki Haley rather. I call her Tricky Quickie Nikki Bailey, because she's just hopeless. I mean, look, she's done good things in her time as governor, but she's trying to fight against Trump, and she's going about it all the wrong way. She's a Republican in name only, accepting Democrat dollars. She's just totally untrustworthy. And I put out a tweet that said Nikki Haley is scum. And I think I even put scum in capital letters. And I've seen far worse. I mean, all sorts of crazy things. But I got an email from X saying, "Oh, we've limited the reach of your post. We haven't censored your post, but we've limited the reach." And it's like I fired off a post to Elon Musk saying, "What the hell's going on? I mean, you're supposed to be for freedom of speech, and yet something so. I mean, obviously it's not very nice, but I mean, I could have said far, far worse. And you're limiting my speech on that. That's BS." So anyway, Harvey, just to finish with the Harvey Malay story, and most people watching this would have seen it. I'm sure you guys would have seen it as well. But there was obviously they had somebody that was doing a live translation of what he was saying. And, you could hear Harvey Malay's voice speaking in Spanish in the background, and there was this sort of droning on English voice. But somebody took his voice in Spanish and the English transcription, and they not only melded it together, but even got the mouth movements to match. So you could hear Javier's speech in English in his actual, what is an approximation, but very close approximation to his own voice, which is something you could never do before, at least not without, massive Hollywood investment. And I mean, they couldn't get rid of the moustache in one of the Superman movies where Henry Cavill was playing the Man from U.N.C.L.E. or something. And apparently, I mean, I'm going to say I never saw it, but people are saying, "Oh yeah, that you could see this mistake." I mean, they couldn't even fix that. They probably weren't using AI, right? Because it was before the AI revolution. So AI is just incredible, and we're at the very earliest stages. People worrying that AI is going to take your job or that it's going to turn evil. I mean, maybe, but right now, even what's his name, Steve Wozniak said it's like a 3-year-old child or something. It's just, the demon might be within, but it's got a long way to gestate before it's truly going to be of any major problem. And we have plenty of people going, "Oh, yes, we take ethics really seriously, and we're never going to let this sort of thing happen." And I've already called for the 3 laws of robotics to be applied, from Asimov, his famous laws of robotics. We need laws of AI, and no doubt other people have spoken about that, and that's what's happening. We don't want the AI to turn into this dystopian future where Skynet's trying to kill us all. And even Elon Musk said that in creating Grok, that he wants to teach the AI that humans are a really interesting part of the universe. We should not be killed. And I'll just finish off because I know I haven't drawn a breath, but there's this famous book from the 1950s that there's only 28 pages. You can find it online free of charge. I mean, places you can go and buy it as well. But it's called With Folded Hands. And look, I'm going to spoil it. I mean, spoiler alert, you've had 70 years to read or discover it. But the short version is that these people are on this planet, and there's one of many planets, habitable planets in the universe, and these robots sort of out of nowhere appear. Somebody had heard about them, and I think even escaped to this planet to get away from them. But these robots were very, very helpful. They wanted to help you with the cooking, with the cleaning, with driving you around. I mean, they were fantastic. They were so good. But they had this imperative built in that they had to protect you from yourself. And so eventually the robots would, and they were obviously, robots that were stronger than humans, they were starting to get worried that, you might prick yourself when you were sewing something. You might cut yourself when you're cooking some food. You might burn yourself when you were, cut yourself when you were, cutting food, burn yourself when you were cooking food. And they became so sort of, once they had the foot in the door, once the camel's nose was under the tent, bang, they were all the way in. And they were so, anal about wanting you to be safe that all you could do was sit there on the couch with folded hands. And that was the end of that dystopian sort of nightmare. So yes, I just want to say one final thing. Sci-fi movies are a warning from God, the universe, humanity, to itself, to us. Don't let this dystopian nightmare happen to you. We're warning you about it. Do something about it so we never have to live this nightmare.
Well, I know Adam's got a question, but I just want to quickly jump in because you're talking about AI being in its infancy. So I noticed on my Windows that Copilot is emerged just magically, and that must have been part of an update. So I was fiddling around with it last night, and I said, design or generate a new logo for the XCandidates in black and red. That's futuristic, and it only takes a few moments for it to do it. But this is what it came up with. This logo here. So it's it looks pretty cool. It's futuristic, but you can tell by the lettering there that it's completely misspelled XCandidates. I don't know what language that is, but
Canadiates or something. Yeah, it's strange. Yeah. AI puts like multiple fingers in. You ask it to do. I mean, what you have to do is you've got to be very specific with AI. Like spell it, the word XCandidates with these letters. You got to. I mean, it's garbage in, garbage out. AI is still a child. It still needs your help. It's a co-worker. It's a junior research, junior assistant that you need to guide and shape. And look, future versions will become much more advanced and we'll be able to hit the ground running out of the box and help you, like instantly. But at the moment, we're dealing with a very intelligent, precocious child that needs firm direction. And we are the adults in the room.
Well, I think we're actually dealing with a psychotic child. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of AI. Okay, so I mean,
yeah,
like I'm sure it's going to have its advantages and whatnot. Like I'm not saying that, but I still believe, and we spoke about this off air anyway. But I still believe that that people do bad things and not things don't do bad things. And I think something that is so powerful, and even at this early stage, all right, it's an infant, and whatever, right? But it's not going to be. And when I don't muck around with AI because I don't want to teach it. I don't do chat GPTs and all this other stuff. And, it'd say, my web browser will turn around and say, hey, why don't you update and get this? And, the AI can help you. And I'm like, no, because I don't want you to learn anything. I don't want to be the one to teach you. So,
Adam's watched too many movies.
Well, no, because you even talked about Asimo. I know what Asimo is, right? And you called it Asimoian or something like that. So you
Asimo is, if you're talking about the robot,
the
from
Honda robot.
Yeah. Well, there's what I was talking about was Asimov, Isaac Asimov, the guy who wrote the original Foundation trilogy, wrote all the robot novels. I mean, he was thinking this stuff up in the 50s, and the TV show Foundation on Apple TV is actually, I mean, the original Foundation trilogy was 3 books, and since then it's turned into like 20. And Asimov managed to turn all of the previous books that he wrote about robots and into a 20,000-year galactic history, and it's been considered unfilmable. And he had these 3 laws of robotics, which, to paraphrase, stated that a robot cannot injure or harm a human being. A robot cannot be forced to accept the order. I mean, a robot should accept all orders from a human unless it's to harm another human being, and a robot shouldn't cause any harm to itself, because Isaac Asimov was sick to death of all these robot stories in the early in the 1940s and 1950s, where the robots came and to destroy the earth, and to kill people. I mean, it was the sort of the panic about AI way back then. And so he wrote these 3 laws of robotics that said, well, robots are not allowed to do this. And
Alex,
all his and of course, yeah.
Sorry, well, you're gone. Then I've watched iRobot. So then humans invented the 2 brains, when then he can contradict it and choose to do whatever the hell he wanted. So what? Yeah. This is the thing.
Yeah.
Look,
people are using AI to do bad things, to write malware, to hack into people, to spread, to look for vulnerabilities. But people are also using AI. I mean, we're in a cyber war right now. Bad AI is already fighting good AI, and everything. I mean, the fact that you're not learning about AI and you're sort of worried you're going to be teaching it. I mean, you need to get some sort of an open source AI model that has not been polluted by, Google or Microsoft. I mean, Facebook's going to have an open source one. I don't know who's going to trust that. I'm not. But people will want their own AI system so they can see the code, load their own information, their own data. You want the AI to teach your children? Well, you want to be checking what the syllabus is or what the political leanings are. And, people are not going to trust all the AIs that are out there. They're going to want their own. Companies are now actually switching off from the cloud. What can we do on premise? What can we do? Cloud bills, AI bills. I mean, Sam Altman just announced a couple of days ago, he's seeking from the Saudis and others $5 to $7, not billion, but trillion dollars to build AI chips en masse. And the funny thing is, the total sales of chips last year was only $567 billion, less than $500 billion. So, I mean, he's going all in, and Facebook and Microsoft and a lot of others, and Sam Altman is wanting to make their own AI chips because they don't want to pay the NVIDIA tax. And also people like Intel and AMD are also making these AI-capable chips. So there's a ton of competition. You'll be able to control your own AI. You're going to want to use AI, another form of AI, to protect it from having this injection of bad data into it. And this war continues. The good guys and bad guys war is never going to continue. And you need to be with the program and learn about it and learn how to safeguard all that, so that when the time comes, you can help others do exactly the same thing.
With all these
Good
AIs
advice.
being developed, should there be government restrictions, or is this something that we just need to let develop naturally and I suppose hope for the best?
Look, the governments are going to want to regulate no matter what, and they're already doing that. We've got the misinformation and disinformation bills. There's AI inquiries in Australia. Government ministers want to, make pronouncements about it. The EU, the US, the UK. I mean, they've all got AI councils, and Google and OpenAI, and everyone's, oh yeah, we're part of it, and we're helping to shape it, and we, very much have ethical behavior at the top of mind, and all the rest. So they're all saying the right things. And it's just a case of, we've got to wait and see what happens. I'm not for over regulation. I don't mind some regulation, but I want as much of the free market as possible. America, over the past couple of years, has gone off the rails in the past 50 or 70 or whatever. But, they were mostly a free market. People didn't pay taxes until the First World War and the Federal Reserve in the US. People were quite happy. I mean, people in various Middle Eastern countries boast about the fact they don't have taxes there. Things are very expensive, but people get to keep their money. I think people, like Kerry Packer famously said, you're a much better spender of your own money. The government doesn't have a good track record in spending it wisely. And, the dead hand of government is always going to fail against the free hand of the free market. And we haven't had a free market, a real free market for, decades. Let's give it a go. Good things usually happen. And if there are bad things popping up, other parts of the free market come to solve that. Necessity has always been and will always be the mother of invention. And even though we have all these claims, we're running out of fossil fuels. I mean, I think fossil fuels are the ultimate renewable. Bloody well came from the earth, came from underground. I mean, I think they'll just keep renewing forever. But they always say we're going to run out peak oil. Well, that was BS. It was, gas, plenty of gas. We're not allowed to pull out of the ground. But my father always used to say, and he got it from somewhere else, of course, but he always used to say, the number one resource we will never run out of is right here. And that's why it's also a bad idea to kill people in abortion, because you never know if that next kid that you're just about to abort is one that's going to invent 0-point energy or something else. Don't kill people and don't, dull us with fluoride and all the other crazy drugs and, medical things and all the rest that blue pilled us instead of red pilled us.
Hey, you know what? You could be a host on our show anytime you want, mate. Because we're on the same page. And you know what? I'm happy to learn. I'm happy to learn technology. Probably should have learned technology a bit better, because I remember.
Never too late.
No, I agree with that. But I know I've spoken to a few customers of mine who are involved in AI and all that kind of stuff and all that, so they know far more than me. And apparently, one guy said that it's not connected, like chat GPTs and stuff like that are, right? But real AI is not connected to the internet as yet. I.e., so it doesn't have access to, like, it's not Skynet, where it can have access to everything. But we're talking about evolution of things, okay? Remember when the original iPhone came out, and then it's been superseded. Like, everything's just got the Nokia 5110. Everyone remembers the brick, and then all of a sudden now we're running the world with these things. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
So I'm kind of like, AI is going to be this exponential brain that's going to continue to learn, and it's going to have access to everything. I know your rules that you're talking about. What's stopping it though? What can stop it once it becomes more intelligent than us? What stops it?
Well, I mean, that is the fundamental question that people are still trying to figure out. Ray Kurzweil, who famously worked at Google for many years and apparently takes 250 vitamins and supplement pills a day because he wants to, live as long as he possibly can and make sure his body has all the nutrients possible. I'd love to find out if he ever caught COVID, because, he's giving himself so many good things. He probably was, immune to a lot of different things. But he talks about the singularity where, humans and technology sort of merge. And I think people were talking about 2030. And of course, you have the somewhat evil transhumanism movement that the World Economic Federation or Forum or whatever they're putting out. And Elon Musk has, of course, agreed in tweets with many of the things that Klaus Schwab, as I call him, has wanted to impose upon us, like this horrific James Bond villain gone mad with his stupid outfits. And he's just, why that guy is still alive? I don't know. And it's like George Soros. And George Soros' son at sadly called Alex. He's stolen a great name. He I saw somebody saying, is this guy on drugs? He was like, talking about Trump. And there was this tweet that they put out, which had some currency that spelled out 47 and like a gun, like it was a threat to assassinate Trump. So, how some of these people are still alive, I've got no idea. But, can you just quickly paraphrase your question again? Because all my exuberance, I've forgotten.
That's okay. What stops AI once it becomes smarter than us?
Sure.
I see the end.
Other AIs that we have written to help, protect us against the bad AI. I mean, if you remember the plot of Iron Man 2, I think it was, where they had the Age of Ultron. They had the Age of Ultron, which was the bad AI that was wanting to launch missiles and all the rest, and they had Jarvis, which was the good AI. So, as I was saying before, already the bad guys are using AI, generative AI, to create malware, to look for more ways of fooling us. You can now clone someone's voice in seconds. You need 3 seconds of your dead grandmother's voice, so her voice can read your child a bedtime story. That was Alexa talking about that 2 years ago. I think
it just feels like we're creating a problem that we're going to have to find a solution for. This is real.
But the thing, But humanity's always done that. They figured out the sugar from sugar cane and sugar beets, and then we had the problem of diabetes. They got addicted to tobacco, and then we had to come up with ways of getting people off nicotine. People drive cars, and of course they can have accidents. People die in accidents every day. I mean, every technology can be used for good and for evil. And you said it yourself, Adam, a second ago, or a few minutes ago. It's the people that cause the problem using these tools. It's going to be good people with good tools fighting against the bad people with the bad tools. And the final example, I mentioned it already, but Norton, and you've also got it in McAfee, but Norton has an app called Genie. It's a free app you can download for your iPhone and for your Android. And then you can take a photograph or you can of a post, or you can copy and paste in a message or a website or a link, and it will use its AI smarts to tell you what it thinks of that link or that message, whether it's a scam or not. So, and that's been around since late last year. So we already have technologies being used and created by people who have our interests at heart. Because you're paying for Norton. They want you to have these benefits. They want to protect you. That's the whole business model. And there are people out there whose business model is to take. They're not givers. They're takers. They're the thugs of the world. And it's never been any different. It's just more sophisticated in today's world. But good and evil is in this constant battle. And thankfully, there's more of us good people than there are the bad guys. And the bad guys should never forget we're out to get them.
That's a good one. But I think there's something ingrained in humans. It's all throughout our history where another race might immigrate to an area, or another race might invade a certain area. It's just, you always that fear of the unknown, and it all over time, an assimilation, and things just work itself out. So
humanity muddles through.
Yes, correct. But
it's called the Borg. That's assimilation. The Borg.
Well, that's where AI can go wrong. That's where, but as we saw in Picard season 3, of the Next Generation reboot 20 years later, we managed to defeat them too. So using all sorts of incredible, Deus Ex Machinas and all the rest. I mean, I have faith humanity will figure it out. And yes, there'll be hiccups along the way. And yes, look, an AI could set off a nuclear bomb. I mean, we've had nuclear bombs fall out of planes by accident. There was just a nuclear bomb found in someone's garage the other day. Now, the headline on Yahoo News or whatever was a bit disingenuous. Yeah, the guy had purchased a nuclear bomb and it was in his garage. He bought it from somebody else. But when you read further in the article, it was the warhead minus the fissile material. And this guy had bought it from someone and he'd given it to somebody else. And this guy had rung up the Smithsonian or somebody. And of course, the headline, nuclear bomb found in man's garage. But so, look, accidents will happen, sure. And if things go wrong, I mean, that will cause us to, wanting to fix the problem with even more urgency. But although I know people who've lost faith in humanity, I certainly haven't. And I always have to look on the good side of things rather than the negative. But as they say, prepare for the best, but expect the worst. And hopefully you'll always be okay.
I want to shift to the political realm, because I know when social media first came out, there was a lot of talk about politicians not embracing social media as quickly as probably they should have. And even now you can go on certain websites. I think the Greens website is very slick. It's professional. Not that I like to heap too much praise on the Greens, but they're very good at that sort of stuff, where other parties, their websites are just atrocious. how can, with this AI technology emerging, and I'm not talking about maybe doing deep fakes of your political opponents or anything like that, but how can we use AI in the political realm to, for campaigning and getting the message out and those sorts of things?
Sure. Well, look, at the moment, you've got the ability to create some sort of a chatbot that can answer pretty much any questions in a chat GPT-like style about your policies and what it is it's like, instead of going to an FAQ and reading through, you can say, well, hey, what are your policies on this, that, or something else? And it will answer, based on how you programmed it. I mean, already people have been using social media for political purposes for many years. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg was accused of a lot of different disinformation during the 2016 and 2020 campaigns. I mean, a lot of people were censored on Twitter, which is why Elon Musk had to buy it. I mean, not just because of the COVID stuff, but even before that, all the political stuff, and Google and YouTube and others have been accused of that. And people have been using social media in campaigns for a long time. I mean, there was all that kerfuffle about how bad TikTok was because the Chinese were spying, and then we had all the politicians like Scott Morrison and others were using WeChat to talk to the Chinese community, using TikTok. So they've been making great use of those things. It didn't help them win the election because their policies were so hopeless, and they turned into a bunch of socialist commies, putting us into the debt of $1 trillion, into the realms of, we're definitely like a little America. I mean, unbelievable how Scott Morrison betrayed us all and did that. And he went into Parliament holding, this is coal. Don't be afraid of coal. And then 3 or 4 years later, the idiot's afraid of coal. And now he's got a job with, Mike Pompeo doing God knows what, but it's not looking after Australian interests anymore with his little gold pass and gold card. But look, politicians need to make better use of the technology. AI can create a website for you in 30 seconds, a really slick one. I mean, if some of these websites are crap, I mean, where are the entrepreneurs, the liberal voting, the conservative, the libertarian entrepreneurs going to these political parties and saying, let's create a site for you. I mean, your site is total rubbish. Let's make a new one. Pay us. You've got money. You've got sponsors and donors. I mean, look, we'll do the first one for free, and then we can do all the other sites for you. There's a huge opportunity there. And politicians, they're a bit like teachers. Sometimes they can be the last ones to know things. The kids are teaching them. The constituents are teaching them. There's been a big problem with education in this country. And, AI is supposed to be able to deliver to you a personalized lesson plan in a way that's never been possible before. I mean, unless you had heaps of cash and you could pay for specific tutors for your kids. And, of course, we have to worry about the curriculum being poisoned. I mean, look, we don't have to worry about AI poisoning the curriculum. It's been poisoned by the lefties and the socialists for the last 50 to 100 years. That's why the education system is so crap. I mean, one of the reasons why the university system was set up in the States was because the president at the time, whoever that evil guy was, probably Woodrow Wilson. Glenn Beck always likes to scream about what an evil, disgusting slimeball he was, and remains to this day, even though he's long since dead. And he wanted university to be able to break the bonds between, young children and their parents. He wanted to indoctrinate them in this sort of system. I mean, I see these days pictures of like some gorgeous, beautiful, incredibly, stunning young woman on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, she's been to university, college as it is in America, for 3 or 4 years. And she looks like a tomboy with tats everywhere and nose rings. And it's like, what the hell did she learn? How did she go from this stunning, beautiful woman that any man would be, in love with and happy for her to be his partner? And she's become some,
black eyes, nose rings, and horns.
Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, it's just disgusting how the education system, and we hear that, the Liberal Party, we've got to change the curriculum. I mean, Dr. Kevin Donnelly writes a lot about this in the Australian and elsewhere, and talks about it, and talks to Chris Smith and other people about it. I mean, spot on. But, we as the people, I mean, there was that the army guy that said, the standard you walk by is the standard you accept. We have let our politicians and big tech and all these companies get away with far too much for far too long. Why is it in the US, and we don't even have a First Amendment here, but in the US, there's a First Amendment and the government is supposed to abide by it, but somehow this doesn't apply to companies? Why is not a company also forced to abide by the First Amendment? Why does suddenly they go out the door just because it's a private company? I mean, you give somebody enough rope with free speech. I want to know what you think, so I know whether to associate with you or not, or to waste my time debating with you or not. Free speech is paramount. And it's, that's why it was in the American Constitution. That's why, I mean, the US is the greatest gift to the world in the last 200-300 years. And we are letting that slip away, the Americans as well. And it's going to, if you want to worry about dystopian, thugocracies, it's not going to be because of the American Constitution succeeding. It's going to be because of that failing.
You were talking about
So what you're saying is essentially I could have a cardboard cutout of myself with a little laptop next to it, and people could ask questions, and like a little speaker would say what my policies are, and I could have town hall meetings all around the country at the same time. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Look, if you wanted to do that, you could. I mean, instead of doing that, you would stream yourself live. You wouldn't use a AI fake version of yourself. But I mean, you certainly could have the AI version of you as an app that anybody could download and converse with and ask questions to. And, you know, that you would, as the person who owns that app and is feeding that app, you would give it more information, more of your speeches, and people could interact with an artificial version of you. I mean, people have talked about that in Black Mirror episodes where, you know, someone's partner died and they got all the videos of them and they created an AI version of that former, you know, partner or lover. And so, and of course, being a Black Mirror episode, it had a bad ending or whatever, and it was, you know, dystopian. But there's no reason why you couldn't do something like that. I mean, people like Facebook were, before the November 2020 Chat GPT revolution, which we're going to remember was right in the middle of COVID and lockdowns, and I think we're just getting out of them and then going back into them again. But that all happened during a really strange time. And before that, Facebook was talking about chatbots for businesses, and you could program all this information into it, and people could ask a chatbot sort of simple questions. I mean, you look at the chatbots when you try and talk to the My Telstra chat and ask you these stupid questions, or you talk to the chatbots on the phone, and they're all from last decade, because they're all really stupid, you know, that they don't really understand you very well. If they had a Chat GPT sort of system there, I mean, look, I love showing people that you take Chat GPT, the plus version, the one you're paying $20 US a month for, and you tap the button where you talk to it and it talks back. And you can have this incredibly complex conversation about all sorts of deep and meaningful philosophical things. People are using their ChatGPT is like a therapist. I mean, they're saying, look, don't do that. Companies are banned it because you're giving away your information, which could be used to train other people. But if I didn't tell you, if I say to people, if I didn't tell you this was a robot, you would think this was a person. And if you've ever tried over the past decade to have a conversation with Siri, Google Assistant, or Alexa, I mean, it works for the first few sentences, but then suddenly, I need to look up the web for that. You know, I can't answer the bloody question. And Apple this year, the Worldwide Developer Conference, is going to have a massive push. They're spending over $1 billion. They've acquired 22 AI companies. They're going to have a Siri GPT, and you know, their tagline is privacy, and they're really strong on they're going to make sure there's as few hallucinations as possible. And Apple sets the standard. You know, they've got the Vision Pro headset. Now the rest of the industry knows what to copy and how to do it properly. And so, I mean, we've got good companies like Apple, and people are worried about them too, and everybody else. And once again, I've rabbited on for so long, I've forgotten what the original question was, but hopefully I answered it in there somewhere.
No, you did. You did.
So
I want to
I've got a
shift
question about ChatGPT. Sorry, because I try to bring it back to a level where it applies to like our viewers and anyone who's like kind of like in business,
Sure.
right? So if I paid $20 a month to ChatGPT, I could input it with all the data I know, RE blind company, okay?
Yep.
And then I can set that up so that it could answer my phone, and people could say, hey, I want a roller blind. What fabrics do you have? And it could say, well, we've got 5, we've got this, we've got that, we've got this, we've got that. Would you? And then it can say, would you like me to organize a quote and take the customer's details down? I can do that through ChatGPT.
You could.
GPT.
You could, yeah. I mean, ChatGPT, if you're a Plus user, they now have the ChatGPT store. You can create your own custom GPT with all the information that you've put into it. And I mean, look, using generative AI to write books and write articles and do things, I mean, it can do them, but it's bland. It's not very creative at the moment. It's meant to be your co-worker, your helper, to help you to do like a first draft. You still have to have the spark of originality and creativity. You know, it's helping you. I mean, yes, in the future, you'll be able to do a much better job just from the word go. But at this early stage, you still are the boss. You still are, guiding it. If it's garbage in, garbage out, you give it the wrong information, it'll give you completely wrong outputs back. And it's not just about, answering people's questions and taking orders for you, but, how can AI actually help you to create a blind that is, thinner, but stronger, it intersects better, so it can be a blackout blind without actually being, but while still having slats. AI was just used to create lithium batteries that was 70% more efficient and using less lithium than before. Been using the various AI to create new drugs against cancer and other things. People are trying to use AI to help augment their thinking. And I mean, AI has been used to take one look at like long lost and recently discovered manuscripts in strange languages, and it's been able to just decipher it within minutes, sort of thing, which would take an ordinary person months, years to do. It's like the Rosetta Stone, except without having had the Rosetta Stone. And so again, AI has heaps of potential for good, and it's only the beginning of what it's going to help us do. And you can be helping it to, you can be using it to if you've got writer's block, it can give you ideas, but the driving force is still, and I think will always be, you.
Okay, very interesting.
I want to shift a little bit away from AI at the moment and talk about the media and how the media is changing. Now, this week we saw Tucker Carlson head over to Moscow and interview
Vladimir
Putin.
It was like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it was over 2 hours. It has 187 million views. Now, there's no mainstream media outlet on the planet that has that sort of views from one interview.
Yeah.
Where is it go? How will media change with evolving technologies, and how can mainstream media keep up with someone like Tucker Carlson, or is this the way forward?
Well, this is clearly the way forward. When you say there's no mainstream media, I mean, there is. It's called X. I mean, the 187 million views. I heard Chris Smith a couple of days ago, it was 40 million, 50 million. It was 100 million. It's growing all the time. I mean, that's not Tucker Carlson's most watched video. He's got a video with like 500 million views, and this one will get there too. But the mainstream media needs to keep up. I mean, many times over the past, decade and a half, I've been reading stuff on Google News, and then 2 or 3 days later, I see it on Channel 9 News, Channel 7, Channel 10, ABC, and it's like, that's not news. That's already out of date. You're palming it off as news, but it's not news. You want news. The great thing about Twitter before Elon Musk bought it was that, if there was an earthquake, I mean, I used it. There was an earthquake in Melbourne. There was an earthquake here or there, or some sort of natural disaster. You had OSINT, open source intelligence, people going there and posting quick bursts of information so they could quickly verify from the people on the ground whether something was real or not. And that was a great use. And the media, that's why that's why you've got cable channels where they're like breaking alert. I mean, Fox News, everything is special report, breaking now, breaking. And so they're trying to do that in some way. And newspapers used to be, you had to wait for the next day for the paper to come out, but now they're posting stories every few minutes, depending on, what's happening out there. So look, the media has certainly evolved along with the times, but alternative media, us talking on podcasts and podcasts has also emerged. I mean, there was even that one of those TV shows on Channel 9 a few years ago where they were posting all of the cool videos and memes and things. But the problem is, by the time it's on channel, 10 or 9 or whatever it is, I mean, you've already seen it. That was the one from a week ago, and it's only accelerated since then. So everything's evolving together. Mainstream media is a bit slow, but they have to keep up because they've got no choice.
Well, I think the presenters from mainstream media now, because I think Piers Morgan also resigned now, and he's going to go onto a podcast platform.
Has he? That just happened in the last 24 hours, did it?
I haven't actually verified it as yet, because I've just I woke up this morning and was just having a look at my feed, and it was like Piers Morgan's gone, and it's like, wow, did he did what like maybe Tucker Carlson did? You know what I mean? Like, because he's pretty popular as well. So like that was fine.
You guys are doing what Tucker Carlson did. I mean, I've got my own YouTube channel. Everyone's, everyone that's anybody's got a podcast. I mean, this complaint that there's too many podcasts out there. Just because you've got an idea doesn't mean you should have a podcast about it. You really have to offer something unique and special and different. And you've got to, it's all about in service of other people, in service of your audience. You're not just there to showboat and show how wonderful you are. You're trying to help people. You're trying to help them learn, see your perspective. You're trying to shift their perspective, change how they see the world. Often shifting your perspective when you're having a problem, you can suddenly say, well, hang on, that problem isn't a problem at all. It's actually an opportunity, And if you can train yourself to have these mental shifts and not be weighed down by whatever the problem is, chunk the big problems down into smaller parts, eat the elephant one bite at a time sort of thing, nothing's a problem. If you think you can, if you think you can't, either way, you're right. And your actions are determined by what you believe. And if you're not happy with your life, change your thinking. Change your thinking. If you change the things you believe, if you change the things you see, the things you see will change. That's what Wayne Dyer said, and it's very accurate.
With Stephen, with AI, what then is the best way to kind of learn about it then? So what should, like, all right, me, I'm excuse the French, but I'm shit on computers. Okay, lucky I can even do this. I've got to be honest. Okay, like seriously, right? So that's you know, I'm always struggling. But
sure.
What's the best? How? Like, I would not want to go into. I wouldn't even know where to find this. I'll probably just Google ChatGPT or whatever it is, and it'll come up. But because I don't even think. So you're just a little bit older than me, and I still don't think to look at Google for stuff. So like I'll try to
look. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on. You will try to.
No, I mean I don't go. Oh, I'll just Google it. Okay, and I'll be there scratching my head trying to figure it out, going through my when I'm trying to fix my car or something like that. I'll be trying to find old manuals and this, that, the other, and then I'm like, and then like an hour
later,
there's a
video
like,
on YouTube showing you.
Yes, but that's not my go-to. I don't go to that straight away. So
well, you have to like tattoo. You have to like in that Memento movie. You have to start tattooing or writing in just. I mean, I like when people write stuff on their hand or whatever. I say, oh, you got a Palm Pilot. People don't know what a Palm Pilot is anymore. But you got to put a memory down. Look, people. I've been part of user groups for many years, and during the 2010s. And maybe even during the 2000s, and people would say, they would come to the main meeting. They'd wait a whole month to come to the main meeting, and we always have a Q&A section. And they'd ask me a question, and I would get, like good-naturedly annoyed to say, look, why have you waited, whether it's a day, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, to come and ask? Let me type exactly what you just said, word for word, into Google. How do I, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, thing. And I said, look, it's the first or second or third answer. And we went through it and we looked through it. And look, it's telling you exactly what to do. I mean, I remember reading about this kid. This is in the early days of Siri back in 2010, 2011, when the 4S came out. And I heard about this kid that had gone with his father to a doctor's appointment. And the doctor said, oh, the kid's got an ear infection. And the kid grabbed the phone, spoke to Siri and said, what's an earfection? I mean, in the way that kids speak. And I mean, kids were learning very quickly that if something could give them an answer, I mean, you can ask your parents why. I mean, if the Alexa or Siri is going to give you an answer, you can ask them. And that, of course, is a dangerous thing. I mean, when you've got a digital guard in your ear, the super advanced ChatGPT, and it's saying, hey, all your friends are going to see the latest Avengers movie at 3:00, and all your friends are doing this, and why don't you do that? And look, my AI agent is going to talk to Johnny's AI agent, and they're going to report back to us what they decided. And it's like, well, hang on, don't be living my life for me. I'm still the boss of my life. You're there to be my helper. I mean, I'm not here to treat you as a slave either. I mean, I want input. I want the advantages of this. I mean, I don't want Elon Musk's brain chip in my brain. If we're going to have that, I mean, I'd love for 20 or 30 or 10 or 20 or 30 generations of other people testing it first. But then, frankly, I want the wireless version. We shouldn't have to implant something into the brain. I just want the wireless thing that connects to my brain waves. And again, we don't want then to have brainwave sensors being sent to you as you're walking down the street trying to control you. You're going to have to wear your digital tinfoil hat of some sort to protect yourself from the brainwave.
You're walking around with a microwave on your head. Faraday cage.
That's right. So now, again, technology can be used for good or bad, but it's up to us to help shepherd the future and be the stewards so that the next generation has a better planet than the one we've left it, and we haven't always done that.
Now, Alex, we can see how excited you are about all this stuff, and you obviously you're excited about technology and looking to the future. Speaking to you off air, you said if you only knew what was coming next and the stuff that already developed but we haven't seen yet, what are some of the things that you are most excited about when looking to the future, technologies that are still yet to come?
Sure. Well, where that came from, what we were talking about off air, was the fact that a fellow by the name of William Gibson, who wrote this incredible novel in the early 80s called Neuromancer, where people were putting on headsets and they had these gloves and they were interacting with the cyber world in a way that people are now doing actually very naturally, just over a week after the Vision Pros launched. And if you go to x.com, and also just actually, Adam, to answer your question, how do you learn about this stuff? Well, there are YouTube videos. If you go to x.com, there's 1 million AI accounts. They've got newsletters. There's people offering free courses on how to get the best out of ChatGPT. They're saying, oh, kids are making 15,000 a month from ChatGPT. I mean, some of those things are just taglines to get you in, but they'll teach you all the prompts. They teach you how to become a prompt engineer, to ask better questions, watch the YouTube videos. And, you know, the number one thing is, besides monkey see, monkey do, and getting your kids, you know, probably to show you how to do it, or your friends or me or somebody to show you, I mean, just experiment yourself. You know, a lot of people have forgotten what it's like to have the childlike wonder of curiosity. I hope I've never lost that. I never want to lose that. I always want to have that you know, I want to be open to new experiences, and I want to be careful, you know, once bitten, twice shy sort of thing. But there's plenty of opportunities to learn, and you're a smart person. You know, you play with it, you'll ask it, and you'll go, "Why didn't I could do that?" And oh, it'll make me this, and you know, you make me the XCandidates thing. But you ask Bing image generator, and we'll give you 3 or 4 different choices, and you say, "Look, I don't like any of those. I want another one. And this time, please spell XCandidates correctly, damn it. And if you're going to do Trump, only give him 5 fingers, not 17, and stuff like that." So, you know, you got to work with it. You got to massage it. But you asked me something, and I think I deviated onto what
I was asking you, what are you excited about? What's coming next?
Sure. Well, Vision Pro with the, you know, that's supposed to come to Australia in the middle of the year. I mean, also, you know, the current Chat GPT, the GPTs that are in our phones and our computers, I mean, these are the future robot brains. And we've already seen Optimus and how dexterous it is. It can fold clothes and pick up eggs without crushing it. And so this coming robotic revolution of the sort that we see in sci-fi, of there's a C-3PO, of the robots in the Mandalorian. I mean, all these different things. The science fiction has finally become science fact. And once you stick a Chat GPT or Grok inside of one of Tesla's robots, I mean, obviously, yes, it's got the ability to go bad. I hope Elon has put in a red light in the heart and in the eyes, because we know that when the robot's heart and eyes go red, that it's gone bad. Hopefully it's in there somewhere.
iRobot.
Yeah, iRobot. I mean, when you said that. So, you know, I'm excited for AI to get even smarter. I'm excited for this. You know, Steve Jobs has this wonderful commercial. I mean, if you've got a few seconds, put it up at some other time. But it's him sitting somewhere saying that, you know, we've had headphones for a long time that can reproduce this incredible audio, this symphony of sound from anywhere sort of thing. But no Walkman exists for your eyes. And if only we could invent that, we could sort of revolutionize everything, computing. And I mean, he was predicting that, you know, 15, 20 years ago. And I don't know if he was working on Vision Pro before he sadly died, but they have delivered this, you know, you can have a better experience with this Vision Pro in your head than any video you've ever seen on any screen ever before, except maybe the Sphere in Las Vegas. And even then, I'd much rather have this thing I can put on. And just look, there's this wonderful video at youtube.com/Apple. Click on videos, and then you can see there's a 9.5 minute or 8 or 9 minute sort of introduction to the Vision Pro. There's a 38-second video where the guys put it on for the first time, looking around. And I mean, Engadget said that using the Vision Pro headset it's magical. It's almost telepathic. You look at something and you tap your finger, and it is opening up. You hold your hand. You don't even have to hold your hands up, but you just go like this on a photo. Wherever you're looking, it will zoom in and it will zoom out. You know, you want to scroll through something. It's just like pulling on a piece of string. I mean, you watch the video. I cannot wait to try this. And I've got a MetaQuest 2 headset. I mean, you look out into the real world, it's black and white. It wasn't until the MetaQuest 3 that finally they could do that in color. But Vision Pro takes us to a whole new level. I mean, just truly, here we go. Yeah, this is this. Well, this is not the video I was talking about, but this is a video. And I mean, just look at this. It's so easy. It's got 1 million iPhone and iPad apps. It has 600, and no doubt it's more by now. It's been over a week into the system, but 600 Vision Pro apps. It's just incredible. That's going to change everything. It's going to obsolete the mobile phone and tablet to some degree anyway. And, you know, the coming robot revolution, the AI, I mean, imagine if you could talk to your fridge and say, look, tell me what's in the fridge and what can I prepare tonight? What should if I'm going to go to the shops right now, what should I pick up to create my favorite meal? It'll pop on your phone, or it'll be on the screen, and you can just beam it across to your phone. Yeah, do this, do that. You can make these 3 different dishes. You know, if you went and bought some chips or whatever, you could make something else. The whole thing will take, once you're back, you know, half an hour. I can preheat the oven, or I can cook some of these things for you. But this whole, you know, the whole 1950s, we had the labor-saving devices. Well, they were all mechanical. This is going to go to another level in the rest of this decade of the 2030s, and we really will finally be living in this sci-fi, much more utopian, but a lot of work to do, and you can't take it all for granted. But you know, much more interesting. Like batteries will last for weeks, if not months, and all those sci-fi things that are coming true. And I cannot wait for all. I'm so happy to be alive to witness it all firsthand and to help shape it in any way that I can.
I love your positivity. I love it. I love it so much because it makes me excited. Because I used to watch Beyond 2000, and I was waiting for the cars to fly, and I was waiting for all that kind of. I love it. I love technology as well. Despite that I'm actually reinventing my life to try and go away from all this stuff, right? But I hope they make those glasses a little bit better looking because I ain't walking.
Oh,
around
look, they will. Look, they will. They will. They're going to make them so they look like a normal pair of glasses. But I mean, Apple has 5,000 patents. They had to invent new ways of doing things. All the other headsets block you off. You just see, this plastic in front of your face. But Apple lets you see through. I mean, it's all chips and stuff. They've got cameras out and they've got cameras in. And so when someone else is looking at you, they can see your eyes, they can see your facial expression. It's the most human way of doing it. And I mean, Apple was very smart to think of this. No one else has thought of it. And this is only going to get smaller and smaller. I mean, I was even talking to somebody who creates these special things for headsets that Apple might use in the future and other companies using. They said, look, they have actually made contact lenses that can display information in your field of view. But the problem is that they've got all these cables and wires coming off them. It's very impractical. Well, I mean, because of today's technology, but if they can have a little, maybe even an atomic battery, someone in China is making a 10-cent CR22 coin-sized battery using nuclear isotopes that sort of decay and can power something at very low voltages, mind you. And people said they did this in the 30s and 40s. But the battery that can last for 50, well, I mean, there was a big news just recently, but they were saying this could last for 50 years. So if you could have like a tiny little, grain, like microscopic, 1/10 of a 100th of a grain of rice, that'd be a little tiny battery that can sit right on the edge of your contact lens and obviously not, leak into your eye, and some sort of tiny little, I mean, LG now has a transparent OLED. I was in Las Vegas for the CES computer show, and my God, these are incredible. Samsung had transparent displays too, so they can clearly have transparent displays. And so you could have in 20 years, 10 years, however long, a little contact lens. And I saw this in various TV shows and sci-fi shows, but a little contact lens that is showing you all the same stuff as Apple Vision Pro, but it just sits on your eye and it also corrects your vision and all the rest. All that is within the realm of possibility. And it's all very exciting to see it all happening as we speak.
Well, it's been very exciting having you on tonight, Alex. We really appreciate you coming on.
Is it already an hour? It's
over an hour.
So. I talk a lot.
No.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And it's so animated. It's really, really awesome to have you on to do that. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, we could go much longer, but we better not.
Well, look, I would also suggest you have a chat with Dr. Natalia Ilyushina. She's been a guest of Chris Smith and mine, and she's been on Channel 7 and Channel 9 and ABC, and she talks about AI.
It's hard enough pronouncing your name, let alone her name.
Yeah.
I'd never.
Well, she's called Dr. Pink, right? She loves all these incredible pink outfits, but she's also a real gun. I mean, she's so intelligent. It's inspiring actually to see all the different things that she talks about. And she's actually an economist. She talks about labor markets. She talks about AI. I mean, everything that I sort of talk about, she talks about as well. So, I mean, please invite her at some stage. I mean, you can have the two of us together. We'll have all four of us will have a great discussion for sure. And in fact, if you got a tech advice,
I'll be just sitting here going.
Well, you can let us talk. Right? If you got a tech advice on life, you can see some of the interviews that I've done with her and all the previous interviews with Chris. And I'll certainly be embedding this into there's the most recent one just from this weekend with Dr. Natalia Ilyushina, and I'll certainly be embedding this onto my site as well and putting it out on tweeting it out on X and putting it on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for the opportunity, guys. Stephen and Adam, I'm really grateful, and hopefully we can do it again in the future.
Absolutely. Well, don't run away too quickly because we're up to our final segment now.
Okay.
Now, I know you're a tech guy, but I've picked up that you are a little bit political, so you might be able to have a go at this. Now, normally we are a political podcast, but it's called Build Your Own Fantasy Government. Now, Alex, you're in charge of the next Parliament of Australia, and you can choose 5 or 6 people to head up the next government of Australia. That can be anyone. Current politicians, former politicians, living or dead. They could be, Steve Jobs or hopefully not Bill Gates, but anyone, anyone you choose, 5 or 6 people to head up the next government of Australia. Who do you pick?
Well, look, I mean, if you're looking at current people, I mean, I'd love to give someone like Pauline Hanson a go and Craig Kelly. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what Margaret Thatcher would do because she was so positive and strident in her, dismissal of socialism. I mean, I'd love to have a Harvey MLA here in Australia. I mean, John Ruddock has done great things for the libertarians. I'd love to see Donald Trump come here and whip things into shape. I mean, if I could if I could wave a magic wand and get rid of all the socialists and all the crazy woke socialist teachers, and reestablish homeschooling, get people to understand the First and Second Amendments, make sure that kids learn about guns and weapons from an early stage. I mean, the part of the problem is that people don't know how to use these things. They're afraid of them. There's so many things that could be done. You'd want to be teaching Austrian economics in school, not the Keynesian economics. You want to teach the road to serfdom. You want to teach people in schools, how to save money, how to invest money, all the different life skills that we don't teach people. There's so many things that we're doing. Hopefully, personalized AI is going to help us as future parents. I mean, I'm not a parent yet. Hopefully, that'll happen for me one day. Got to find the right woman, but hopefully, we're going to have a much more educated populace who don't forget the lessons of history. And I mean, look, there are other great politicians out there that I'd have to sort of remember about and think. I certainly wouldn't want people like Woodrow Wilson or Lyndon B. Johnson or Nixon, who took America off the gold standard. Or I mean, there's a terrible guy. I mean, a lot of people know him and they sort of boo him a lot. You guys probably not familiar with him, but he's called Anthony Albanese. And I think he's only a one-term president. We had this one-term prime minister. We had this awful guy called Kevin Rudd. We even had this traitorous scumbag called Malcolm Turnbull, who came in and detonated, put bombs all over the place and got rid of Tony Abbott. I'd bring Tony Abbott back. I mean, I think he's learned a lot. I'd probably Peter Credlin would be. I mean, although they all hate her and whatever in the left, she was great. It's a real shame that Turnbull had to stick his face in, and that John Howard sort of invited him to come back or asked him to come back in Wentworth. He was the worst thing that could happen to Australia. Bettered only by idiots like Kevin Rudd and I call him Dill Shorten. I mean, we've got Chris Bozoan, Penny Wrong, Tanya Glibasek, Tony Perk. I mean, all these absolute no-hopers. How they ever? I mean, they've rise to the Peter principle. They rise to the level of incompetence, and this one-termers are going to be kicked out. And I mean, Dutton still has to prove himself, but and he's got he needs a grand dose of Malayism inside of him. But he's going to win the next election, and hopefully he'll work with more closely with people like Pauline Hanson and libertarians like John Ruddock than becoming just another arm of the uni party. And liberals have tried to impose censorship and all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, what's wrong with these people? Are they for us, or are they, is there pictures of them with kids that Klaus Schwab has or something? Because you got to wonder sometimes. There's really weird stuff going on, and it's not that hard. It's not that hard to be good.
You're starting to sound like a politician. Are we going to see your face on a corporate one day?
I reckon.
Well, I would be the most different one ever. I would be standing up for, liberty and freedom and free speech. I mean, where the hell was Tony Abbott? Wanting to get rid of 18C. Why the hell did he do it? Had plenty of time to do it. All these politicians who mouth all these promises, and the second they get in, they've sold their souls to the devil in Washington or wherever else. I mean, even in the States, you can become a multi-zillionaire with insider trading. It's legal for people in Congress. You'd want to get rid of all these perks. Why does even ScoMo, why does even John Howard, why do any of these people deserve these massive pensions? Just cancel it all. If the average person on the street is going to deal with the old age pension, you deal with it too. You want to go into business. It can't be the business you were managing when you were a minister. It's got to be something, it's to be 5 years or 10 years moratorium. I mean, let's start demanding a much higher quality. We as humans are capable of it. And, the funny thing is, you guys know it, if all of us worked together, like voluntarily, this planet existence could be this utopia of abundance for us all. And yet we always, or some of us choose the worst possible outcomes. And we wonder why things are not as good as they could be. And, America's printed $33 trillion in debt. I mean, they're never going to recover from that. I mean, if Trump gets in, you'll stave it off for 5 years. Hopefully you'll make them energy independent again. Look, I don't know if I'm ever going to be a politician, but if I ever did, it's going to be what you're hearing now on steroids. And I've been whipping people into shape. And it's like, if you're no good, you're out. I mean, just get out, just to stop wasting our time, because politicians have wasted our time for millennia and we're sick to death of it, honestly.
That was fantastic,
I'll vote
Alex. I
for you.
mean, that was probably the best part of the interview right there. That was really good stuff.
Well, I've got my father in libertarianism and, you know, free market thinking and all that to thank. And, you know, there's this funny saying, there's this well-known saying that says, you know, if you're under 30 and you're not a socialist, you haven't got a heart. But if you're over 30 and you're still a socialist, you haven't got a brain. Well, I've never, ever, not like Andrew Bolt working for Labor and all that. I've never been a socialist. Socialists can go and get stuffed. I mean, they really are a cancer on this planet, you know, and hopefully one day this virus, mind virus, and a few others out there will be eliminated. And unfortunately, it's got a lot of work to go before that happens.
Awesome.
Yep, unfortunately. Well, mate, thank you very much for coming on. How can people follow you online? I know you're very active on all the different podcasts and Chris Smith's show and everything like that, but what's the best way for people to check out what you're doing?
Yeah, the best way is you go to techadvice.life, L-I-F-E. So techadvice.life. I would also go to my X page. It's Alex Online. And then because I've got part Chinese heritage, it's 888, not from eating, but the triple number 8. I'd also look me up, Alex Zaharov-Reutt. Well, I've changed my name to Alexander, but Alexander Zaharov-Reutt on LinkedIn. And look, you just type my name into Google, you'll find me. I've got a YouTube channel, youtube.com/AlexOnTech. If you type Alex on Tech, it brings up these other Alex. It's not the right one. It brings up all these strange ones, but you can go directly there. But look, techadvice.life, it's going to have all the links to all the interviews that I do. I'll be putting this one there. And, you know, follow me on 2CC in Canberra, with the Chris Smith show. I talk to ABC in Hobart. I talk to left wing and right wing, but I always bring this same enthusiasm and skepticism about, you know,
they must love you
and all the rest. Well, you know, ABC's told me many times, don't mention brand names, and you know, it's like, well, what am I going to say? The fruit company. And one time I was I lived for a year in Melbourne, and you know, I was a guest on one of the ABC stations there, and the producer rang me and said, "Oh, we've had complaints from management about, you know, you mentioning all these brand names." And it's like, well, you know, it's very hard to I mean, why do we have to beat around the bush? And then in the next breath, he tells me, "Oh, but we've just been talking about the Toyota Prius all week because, you know, it was before the Tesla cars, it was the hybrid car." So it's like there's a lot of double standards. That famous saying that says, if it wasn't for double standards, some people wouldn't have any standards at all. You know, where's the balance? Where's the transparency? You know, just stop bullshitting us, you know, everybody out there that's trying to do that, because we're sick of your shit. And, you know, there's more of us out here than there are of you. And they say things like, you know, Hollywood is politics for politics is Hollywood for ugly people, but there's a lot of left-wing, very strange people in Hollywood, very strange people in politics. I hope that we can get this grassroots movement of, you know, people who think along the same lines as we do. You guys shouldn't be the ex-candidates. You guys should become candidates again, because it's all great that you're doing this podcast. You know, look, let me say this. There was a famous story. I can't remember who exactly it was, but I think it was the finance minister in Chile or one of these South American countries, and he was, you know, part of the new sort of, you know, right-wing libertarian kind of thinking, and people in its country, any South American, any country, sick to death the politicians. I mean, people like Castro would talk for hours, 12 hours. At least when I'm talking, it's interesting, right? We're having a good time, but he'd drone on and on and on. Castro would give these famous 12-hour speeches. This guy, he came on the stage and said, "Look, I know that you're sick to death of people yabbering on. Here's an egg timer. I'm going to turn it, and for 3 minutes, it's going to tick down. By the end of 3 minutes, I'm going to finish what I'm going to talk about." And he taught people who obviously, you know, very left-leaning in their thinking because they've been brainwashed by decades of, you know, whatever it was before someone like Harvey MLA came along, for example. And he taught them about how to invest their money, how to be stewards of their money. And slowly by slowly, 3 minutes a day, he changed the thinking of an entire nation. And where the hell is Peter Dutton with this sort of a podcast, you know, or commandeering as the, you know, the owners of the freaking ABC? Where is the Liberal Party show or the LNP show or the Conservative show? You know, what I mean, why is it that the Labor, you know, the ABC, which is an arm of the ALP, why aren't they forced? I mean, all these people that went in there to Albrechtsen and Ida Buttrose, they did diddly squat. You know, there's going to be this show. It's going to be hosted by a libertarian or a Liberal Party person. And yeah, you can have all the Labor Party shows you want, but there's going to be an equal number of these other shows. And if you don't like it, you're fired. Get lost. I don't care about the Fair Work Commission. You're out. Go and start your own left-wing. I mean, look at MSNBC's ratings. They're in the freaking toilet because it's just nonsense. And they're funded by people who just obviously, you know, they're still socialists after over 30. They haven't got any brains.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, we go back to Tucker Carlson. I mean, that's America is doing it. Podcasts are prolific over there. I mean, you have candidates like RFK Jr., who's basically running his whole campaign through podcasts, and Vic Ramaswamy used them effectively as well. So I've been trying to push that's the way forward here in Australia. I know a lot of people in the media, we've asked them this question, they disagree with us, but maybe that's a space for us to push on through. So
no, look, there's a great hunger for this sort of stuff. People are sick to death of being, BS to, gaslighted by politicians and all the rest. And why we aren't out there winning landslides, to our way of thinking, I don't know. The potential is certainly there, and it's our moment in time to do it. We should do it.
Yeah. All right, Alex, thank you very much for coming on tonight. We really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this, and I'm sure Adam did as well. And I'm sure the audience did. If the audience really enjoyed what we've done tonight, please share it far and wide. I say it every single week, but it is so important. Share. Like, comment,
share, and subscribe.
It's all really great for the
donate.
If you can do that too,
buy them a coffee. I'll have to buy you guys a coffee,
mate. We appreciate you being on. We'll see you next time. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.